So the question is, why do I love cycling? Well, I can't really tell you, and it's not just love, it's an obsession. So the only thing I can try and do to make you understand where the love, where the obsession comes from, is maybe explain to you what cycling has given me. And there's no better place to start than the corner where Darvelo is, and there's my bike in the background. And you would have to say, it's pouring a rain, I'm sheltering under the cover at the corner, and you would have to say it would have to be love or an obsession to still go out on your bicycle on a day like this. One of the things that cycling has given me is exploration. I've been able to explore beautiful roads and places just out the back door of where I live, that if you're walking they're too far away, and if you're driving they're off the beaten track and you'd never see them. And I've been able to cycle them and take in everything they have to offer. Even in a day like this where it's raining, there's still something beautiful about them. And if you cycle them all year, you're seeing them changing through all 4 seasons. But not just in this country. I've been able to cycle and see some amazing things in other countries. I've cycled in the Algarve. I've ridden the famous Sacalobra and Cap de Formentor cycles, amongst many others, in Mallorca. I've ridden up the 3rd highest volcano in the world, Mount Teide in Tenerife. I've cycled across the volcanic plains in Lanzarote. I've cycled in the Highlands, in the Lake District. I've cycled all over the UK, and I've been able to explore and see things at a pace that you miss in the car, and take in the beauty. The other great thing about cycling and roads is you get to experience what you see in the television in a way you can do in no other sport. You can't just rock up and play tennis at Wimbledon. If you're a fan of a football team, you can't just rock up and train or play in their stadium. Whereas the beauty of cycling is you can go and cycle in all those roads that you've seen in the Tour de France, or the Giro d'Italia, or the Vuelta a España, or Paris-Roubaix. You can do that on your own bike at your own speed, which is fantastic. And in fact, if you're just cycling through Galston, you're cycling on roads that the Tour of Britain has went through. And I've managed to do a few of those, and they're on my bucket list to do in the future. As well as that, you can go and have a shot on a velodrome like the Chris Hoy in Glasgow, which I've been fortunate enough to do. I even cycled for the future King and Queen when they came to officially open it. Commonwealth Games and World Championships have happened there, and there's few sports where you get to perform in the same stage as the heroes of sport actually do. And I've been awarded that opportunity through cycling.
Well, here I am on the Chris Hoy cycle path, and I suppose Chris Hoy would be a good example of another thing that's brilliant and accessible about cycling that I love. If you are inspired watching Wimbledon and want to play tennis, you have to go out and play tennis, which isn't always easy. If you're inspired by a World Cup or in the football or watching your favourite team in England or Scotland or wherever in the world, if you want to emulate that, you have to go and play football, whether that's 5-a-sides or 7-a-sides or 11-a-sides, and find other people. If you've watched the British Open, you have to go and play golf on a golf course. But if you've watched Chris Hoy on the velodrome, or Graham O'Brien, the Flying Scotsman, when he did his world hour record, or if you've watched Wiggins or Froome in the Tour de France, or you've watched Matty van der Poel rip it up in the cyclocross, you can just go out on your bike. You don't need a stadium, you just need your bike. And you don't need to race like them, you can just go out on your bike. You can cycle for a coffee, you can cycle for a challenge, go on your local roads. You just need to go out on your bike to emulate them. And even if you want to race, cycling for all age groups, and male and female, is one of the most accessible sports, especially around here, for being able to enter and be competitive, which I have been lucky enough to do, doing cyclocross races, mountain bike races, endurance races. Even if you don't want to race, there are events where you can feel like you are part of something bigger. You might not be racing, but people are there to watch. There are other cyclists there, like Darvelo. And there are loads of events you can do all over the country, all over the world, where you don't need to race, but you can be part of an event. And that's another thing I just love about cycling. And the thing is as well, what cycling can allow you to do that other sports maybe don't in another way, is keep you competitive for longer. Now, I'm 46 and I'm still doing competitive sport. It's very hard to do that, although I'm sure it exists, but it's a lot harder to do that in other sports and a bit less accessible than it is in cycling. And also you get to cycle along nice cycle paths like this, named after our best stars. Now we are stopped here on a cycle path, and one of the other things I love about cycling is active travel. And this was part of my commute for 11 years when I worked in Kilmarnock, and I was commuting in 3, sometimes 4 or 5 days a week to work all year. And I think over the course of my time at work, I've probably saved hundreds if not thousands of pounds on fuel, which is fantastic for the pocket and also fantastic for the environment. And it also helped your health and fitness for free. It was a great way of getting to work. And what I loved about it was I arrived at work fresh and with half an hour to an hour of fresh air in me. So I think I was better at work for it. And then coming home after school, sometimes, yeah, you were tired after a day's work, but do you know what was fantastic? See, if you had a rough day as a school teacher, that can happen, whether it was your class or a colleague or a situation. You get in your car, you travel home 10-15 minutes, you still arrive home inside that bubble of your car, still inside your bubble of rage. Whereas when I cycled home, I either mashed it out in the pedals, or again the fresh air or a nice evening, or even sometimes the driving rain, just got that out of you. So you arrived home a lot calmer and a lot better for your cycle home. And you know what? You could sit down and have your dinner knowing that your exercise was done for the day as well. So I have loved being an active traveller to school. And my finest hour as a teacher was back in 2013 when I was working at Crosshouse Primary School and we were the big pedal champions of not just Scotland for the second year in a row, but we were champions of the United Kingdom. And that year especially, but in every school I've worked in, I've always loved inspiring the kids to come in their bike, remembering that they can get to school in their bike, become an active traveller, and you know, installing that joy for life, a practice of lifelong fitness. I just love that. And I had a pupil when I was at Crosshouse during that time in primary 7, Cameron, and he won't mind me saying this, but years later I met Cameron at an event. Here he was on his bike, and I said to him, "What got you into this?" And his response was, "You did." And I think it's one of the single most proudest moments of my whole career that I inspired somebody. And he does other health and fitness things, but I would like to think I had something to do with that inspiration, and I'll always hold that close to my heart. Do you know, one thing I love about cycling is I know that this will always be better than this. One thing that I'll be forever grateful and love cycling for is allowing me to keep being healthy and fit even when I'm 46. And that might not seem like much, but to put it in perspective, when I was 21, I had a prolapsed disc in my spine and it gave me chronic sciatica, and the only way to cure it was what was called an L45 microdiscectomy, where essentially they drilled a hole in my spine and scooped out the bit of the disc that was pushing on the nerves in my spine. And it was quite a difficult surgery, a difficult time. But I had to sign a form before I had that said there was a 20% chance that I'd never walk again, and the damaged nerves. Now thankfully, as you can see, that's never happened. But that was a time in my life where not only was it really low from a fitness perspective, I was also extremely heavy because I'd been so inactive for so long, and I was nearly 20 stones, and I'll show you a picture of that. And initially I was able to lose some of that through getting back to playing sport and football, but it wasn't until I got into cycling that I really regained not just a lot of my fitness, but a lot of my confidence in my own ability. And now at 46, I'm able to do cycling challenges that a lot of people just gasp at or think are amazing. And I actually think they're amazing, that I'm entering events where you do upwards of 200 kilometres, sometimes even off-road. But what I love about it specifically is that cycling has allowed me to show that age is just a number, and you can get better as you get older. There will be a law of diminishing returns at some point, but I'm trying to prove that wrong as much as possible, and I love cycling for that. Now, although famously my online moniker is the lone biker, I do actually enjoy cycling with and around other people at times when I'm not enjoying my own company. And one of the things I've loved about cycling is the different people I've got to meet. Now you'll notice when I'm talking to camera today, I have been wearing the red, white and black kit of Loudon Road Club, which is my club, historically based in the Urban Valley, but we've got a wider attraction now, and it's allowed me to meet fantastic people through the club, and people from all different walks of life, and you go cycling together and there's camaraderie, and when you do a race you get to race in club colours, which is fantastic. You get to relive all those dreams of youth when at one point you were wearing the football strip of your favourite team and you thought you'd play for them. Well, now you are actually part of a club, and having your club there to cheer you on and support you is fantastic too. And as part of a club you get to put events on for other people and see their joy of cycling, and open up cycling to people who thought it would never be something they do. So club cycling is fantastic. And I used to be in Walker's Cycling Club, and there's one or two people from that club who I still cycle with or speak to on a regular basis. The online cycling community has been amazing, and I've met amazing people through there that I might have only met through cycling and online. For instance, I'm one of the athletes, in inverted commas, for Kendall Mint Co, and I've been proud to be one of their ambassadors for 5 years. Fantastic guys there. I never get recognised sometimes at events as the Kendall Mint Co guy, which I love. The handlebars you see in front of me were gifted by a company from America called Redshift, and the guys there have been superb. And I've been in events where I've cycled along with people who are complete strangers, but for just half an hour or an hour during that cycle you made a connection with, and you might never see them again, but that connection was cycling, and it was fantastic. And of course, the local bike shop. Buying online can be good, but never underestimate the joy of the local bike shop and the people that work in the local bike shop. We've got a great one in Darvelo called Cycle Station, and sometimes your local bike shop loves cycling as much as you, and sometimes you might not be in for much, but see, just getting in and spending some time with people that love cycling just as much as you, it is just a joy. The other social thing about cycling that I love is the ability to do it with other people who don't need to be the same age as you, or like a lot of sport, be segregated into male or female. Cycling allows me to go out on adventures, big, small and in the middle, with people my own age, but also in groups that are mixed with male and female. It allows me to go out and cycle and be active with my daughter, 33 years my junior, or my parents, 25 years my senior. And it's such a leveler. And one of the great things is when you're out cycling and you find yourself in discussion, you tend to talk about cycling, and in a time where politics and religion and various things can divide us, you can be out cycling in a group with other people and never know what their beliefs are or be annoyed by them, because invariably the chat just turns to cycling and how much you love it, which I think's fantastic. Cheers. One thing I love about cycling that I think's great is it can take you for miles and miles on the road, but it can take you off the beaten track. It can take you off-road as well. It doesn't need to be hurtling down the side of a mountain, although some people enjoy doing that. But you can quite easily visit off-road places and single track and gravel on a bike, which is tremendous. Just like here.
There is so much I love about cycling. It's hard to think of everything and not worry that you've missed something out. For instance, I love cleaning my bicycles. I love that cycling has made me a fashionista with the amount of different jerseys that I own. I love how cycling has at times made me into an engineer. For instance, look at these tools. Before cycling, I wouldn't have known what these were for, let alone how to actually use them, and now I can. Although I still go to cycle station when I need some more help. I love N+1. Now for those of you who don't know, N+1 is how many bikes you should own, where N represents the number of bikes you already own. Now I own 7, which I know is ridiculous and really shows the obsession. But over the years, I've owned so many, I became attached to all of them in some way, shape or form. But I just love them. I love a new bike, I love an old bike, I love refurbing a bike, I like a mountain bike, I like a road bike, I like a bike in my turbo trainer, I like a gravel bike, I like a gravel bike for racing, I like my winter bike, I like my folding bike. If it's a bike, I like it. If you can think of any that I've not owned yet, let me know. Again, I've probably forgotten about 400 things about why I really love cycling and why you might like cycling too. But you know what? It is just fantastic. I just love cycling. Bikes, you name it. Is it an obsession? 100%. But it's a good, healthy obsession. And the best thing that it's healthy for is the mind. My mental health would not be the same if I couldn't escape from the real world on my bicycle. Escape into my garage and tinker about with my bikes. Reduce the complications of life to the simplicity of just getting from A to B. Sometimes A to B can be 20 miles for a cup of coffee. Sometimes A to B can be 200 kilometres to finish a gravel event. It doesn't matter. You can be alone with your thoughts, you can sort your thoughts, but whatever happens after a cycle, you always feel better. And that is why I love cycling.